Yeah, I love the draft as well. Talon, DP, that could be our KP hero. That could be our Mikato hero for mid. So it's a lot of flex here for Talon. It does give them a really good push as well. And maybe, considering maybe DP mid versus Razor mid, if you want to assume that, that can go either way. Like you've got the static link going, but you've also got Spirit Siphon. I think the Razor can kind of win out, as we have seen that matchup a couple of times. And if he does get enough damage, it can run down. AG switch things out, Mike. Marana instead of the Wind Ranger coming out here. So could be an LYM Marana. They could try to flex it for Azura mid as well. Although outside of Moon, I don't know if anyone's really been running mid Marana besides Moon on SMG. So it should likely be our 4 position Marana. Again, setting up for a combination on the off lane that can really open up for the Mars pickup here. And they will go Sand King instead. So Sand King Marana combo, which we haven't seen in a while, does come out. Mike, double stuns, arrow setups there, team fights there for AG. And again, just kind of course correcting from their game 1 draft. They give Wami something where he can dictate how these fights break out. The combinations here with Gyrocopter and Area Denial is huge. So I like this pick from AG. I think they should be able to apply the pressure that they want to bring out that we saw in game 1 and game 2 at least.
Yeah. We have very fond memories of the LYM Marana as well. I remember games where he was just so dominant with the arrows just constantly connecting over and over again. I can see you smiling, johnxfire. Would you mind sharing with the classroom what it is you've seen that's made you so happy?
I just saw what my camera was doing at 60 kbps.
Oh,
it's
it gets
beautiful.
better. It gets better, let me tell you, John. Talon, with the anti-mage pickup, something very different here for Gabby. We've seen this one before, John. The AM, I never have confidence in it. No matter who's playing it, I just never feel good about it. You tell me, is this a good pick, John? Do you think Talon have got what it takes to make the AM work this game?
They might. I think there's enough control on AG to kind of keep it in check. Like you've got good AoE control from the Sand King, so you can just burst strike in with a blink as well, and then just follow through the arrow. Could still be a really easy way to keep that AM pin down. At the same time, they kind of like direct hard control. So there are no hexes coming out from AG. The AM does kind of screw over the Razor, right? You can't just static link the AM. He's going to blink away. So you're not getting max value from your Razor pickup now. That is going to be a KPDP on the off lane now, so something on mid for Mikado to set the pace. If it is going to be Mikado DP, then something for KP to really force some team fights early on. Like, you could... Azure Razor, I'm trying to recall. We have seen mid Ursa a couple of times. I don't think that's the angle AG will take, so it should just be the Razor mid and DB taking that Ursa safe. In terms of timing now, AG has this really strong early spike. They don't need too much farm to get running. Our Ursa can also contest Roshan by the time he hits Morbid Mask. Heck, sometimes we even see that happen with, say, a Diffusal pickup. They just rush Rosh early on. So AG has a lot of potential for those objectives. Talon does have a good push. Again, this last pick has to give them a lot of presence. I think they lack a little bit of teamfight control. And they go with the Invoker instead, so it is a KP DP with the Invoker coming out from Mikado on mid. They've got great ways of amping up their damage. They've got the Tornado Ice Wall to maybe get some control off, along with a Meteor to do some damage on top of it. I don't know if it's enough. For me, looking at Talon's draft, it feels like they have a few of the issues from game 1 of AG, where you do have a couple of stunts in your supports. Your actual team fight hold isn't as big as AG's on this side. They've got the Sand King, they've got the Marana Arrow follow-up, they've got some good area damage as well with the Gyrocopter. Talon, their hold and Invoker with Tornado isn't that big. Their AoE hold with Monkey King is also not that long. Doesn't last for too long. So AG can still kind of weave in and out and kind of work this game to their advantage. It really just depends on execution here.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get into it. Game number 3. I mean, Talon, again, quite desperate to get a victory underneath their belt. Otherwise, they are sort of getting into the deep end of the DPC where you might be forced to be relegated out. Army Geniuses, I mean, obviously looking for their own wins as well, as they want to try and make their way up to Division 1 if they can. We'll get into Game 3 very, very soon. But, John, how is it, like, you're telling me your internet upload speed is ridiculous at this point. You're getting like 50 kilobytes a second, which is almost worse than dial-up back in the day. How is it, your audio sounds perfect. How is that? Like, how does that even work?
I think it's because it's a peer-to-peer connection. So I think my direct connection for my camera to you, we always talk about routing. I think the routing's off. It does tend to do this. So the internet's completely fine. Actually, it's just talking to Australia. Apparently, my internet doesn't like that sometimes, right? Like, it's funny because we kind of use the same system for our other production, and in there it doesn't have an issue. It just seems like I don't know. My ISP. No. My ISP doesn't want to make friends with Australia.
Oh,
like it just doesn't want to be friendly. I don't know. I can't say my ISP's name just in case I get called out, as I did last time. But
did you really?
Know. Not really. I just don't want to make it a big deal because, we made that whole joke with Hyde, and now I'm having it. So, maybe it's a bit of karma. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, Hyde.
All right, we'll move on, John. Game number 3. Shout out to the indie home packet Phoenix. I still remember, John. Thank you for enlightening me on the Indonesian memes out there. I always appreciate it. So we do get into it. Game number 3 again. There's a lot on the line here, especially for Talon, John. They need some victories under their belt. Bit of an interesting draft here with the anti-mage, but it does feel like they have the draft to make the AM work and buy enough time for Gabby to just get out of control. That being said, though, you are up against a Razor, you're up against an Ursa. They might be able to just fight you very early on, and that could be very problematic for the side of Talon. We'll find out soon, though, as the game number 3 is set to get underway.
Just clumping around mid here, maybe trying to spot out those wards. Already do have those early wards dropped by Talon, so Varish is under vision. Not going to test it by running out to the tower. The fly is cutting off anyway, so they would second guess as to whether or not that ward is there. There's some really good early level 1 presence here from AG, though. Like, if they do go for a burst strike into arrow, that could be an easy kill. So I think Talon's going to have to watch themselves and how much they do go out for these bounty rune trades. AG might be able to catch him off guard here.
They are. Talon for now just going to try and secure those top bounties. There probably won't be too much contest, but Varish, he's hovering around. He's thinking about it. In fact, Azura does make his way over, so they are going to get a bit greedy for this, but they'll get away with it. In fact, they have found all 4 bounty runes as DB sneaks up from the backside and goes into that Radiant Triangle. So 4 bounties to go the way of Army Geniuses at the start of game number 3. You couldn't have asked for a better start.
Yeah, it's a perfect start for AG. A lot of bonus gold coming out. That's really going to impact, especially mid. But we're taking a look at top first, Mike. DB on the Ursa with Varish on that gyrocopter. They are up against Hyde and KP on the Monkey King DP, respectively. This lane does feel a little bit more manageable for Talon. There are lots of ways to just kind of zone out the Ursa with the range KP has. Hyde can always look for the right-click trades as well. Varish is going to have to put the work in this early homing missiles and kind of just trying to zone them out. DB has to watch when Hyde does come in. Has the Jingu level 1, has a lot of damage to lay out, and there's not much Varish can really do to stop that harassment coming out. So, decent lane for Talon. As levels go up, it's going to get a lot more manageable as well. Varish does have that level 3 spike with a homing missile and rocket barrage. We'll see if he does manage to get the EXP to get that going. As DB, he's forced so far away from creeps. He's not getting any CS here, and that's a worrying sign for Ursa.
And we saw this in game 2, just last game around. Hyde was just doing a fantastic job of keeping DB at bay on that lifestealer, doing the exact same thing. And I suppose with KP on the Death Prophet, it's even scarier now for the side of IG to try and deal, or rather AG to try and deal with this. Still mid lane, you've got Azura there against Mikoto. I do wonder at what point Azura decides to start getting a little bit more aggressive with the static link. But now Mikoto just slightly behind in terms of CS. Azura, he might decide to play a passive kind of lane here with the Razor. We'll have to wait and see, but there is certainly quite a bit of kill potential if you can find Mikoto out of position.
Yeah, I think Mikoto is doing a great job of just using his spells though. Constantly spamming out the Tornado, cutting off Azura, ensuring that Azura is always at midway HP so he can't fully commit for the static link chase. Mikoto's just holding on, getting the farm that he can. Not too far behind the Razor now, very even lane coming through. Rune control going to be slightly more important for Azura, as the Razor will need a mana sustain to keep the spell spam and keep the wave clearing up. His bottle is almost done, so that should help the cause, but we'll have to watch. Like in Mikado, it does feel like he's going to hit that early earn timing, and at that point, if you can get a good rotation out, start building up the charges, you can get really aggressive on that Invoker as well.
Plus the final lane as well, bot lane, you've got LYM there with Wami against Flying, and naturally Gabby on that anti-mage. Gabby having a really good laning stage thus far, John, 12 and 6 in terms of CS. No real contest here for Gabby at the moment, as it does seem like Wami and LYM can't really get close enough to do any form of damage to this AM. And in fact, never mind that, because top lane is where the first blood does occur. DB ends up going down to KB, and I suppose we should have seen that one coming, considering how aggressive Talon were being at this top side.
Yeah, and it's just not an easy lane for the Ursa at all. Like, they have a lot of good slows, a lot of good damage coming out on Talon's end. They have a lot of sustain on both of these heroes as well, with the Jingu and the Spirit Siphon. And DB is a melee Ursa. He just can't run up DP and just work on the lane. Like, they have such great zoning potential. Varish, again, on the Gyrocopter does have that spike with a Rocket Barrage, but you can't really rip through them when they have so many ways of just healing up. I think that will kind of lead to this tough time for DB. I don't see any level spikes for him to get an easier start here, as it's really just down to Varish putting his body forward to cut them off. But Talon aren't going to bite that bait. They just keep applying pressure on the Ursa, slow down that farm, and this will give our AM a bit of a better time in that core-to-core matchup. As we were talking about bot, the AM is just not contested. Wami is always out of mana, can't really go for the burst strike play. They don't want to commit that onto Fly, so it's just an Ogre, but they will go for it.
Try Fly. Slowly being chipped away at an LYM. He's going to commit all the way to ensure they get the kill, but now Gabby should be able to get a trade. I don't know if I can call that very worth, but never mind. The gold's quite split between the two, so not quite as great. But for Gabby, he's still able to freely farm up on this anti-mage. Wami is unable to do too much about it. In fact, now Wami's in trouble. He's completely out of mana with no kind of stick charges available and understands he is just going to die. Gabby able to find a second kill now in this game number 3. And we talked about the anti-mage during the drafting phase, but if he's going to get this good of a start, it certainly does bring the confidence back in this pickup.
Oh yeah, like the fact that our Mirana Sand King just can't go for the arrow commitment on the AM while he's soft is a worrying sign. They do get the rotation onto mid. Great lining up from LYM and Azura to ensure they get Mikado's kill. So they do manage to at least find something for their trouble. But I don't think the Invoker is going to be the issue. The issue is this AM off to a running start. And Wami just doesn't have a lane. They dropped the sentry and now he can't even play with Sandstorm.
He certainly can't. Wami in trouble again. No mana available. They're going to throw the arrow out, but Gabby, he has Blink up in 1. In fact, top lane, they even found Varish. Second kill over to Gabby. He's already doing great in terms of CS, but with all this bonus gold and XP coming in, it's going to be a pretty damn good Battle Fury timing, as even DB top lane, he's still being chased down by Hyde. It's just the strength of the possible Monkey King, and as I look away, LYM's going to go down now. Oh, the T2 is going to start in the chat, aren't they, John? I think that was the third kill I've missed already.
It does happen. You don't expect the anti-mage to just run down to support Mirana right after, and it's just that spike for the AM. He has a lot of mana burn. Without the mana pool to sustain, you can't really jump out, and AG now kind of being bullied in the laning phase. 6-2 start. Good news for Talon fans, as they are off to that kind of start you want to enable the AM pickup. And you still have a lot of power left for Talon. We haven't seen KP's level 6, level 7 spike. When he does go for that Exorcism, it leads to very easy pushes coming through for AG's part. And there is a spike for Wami, but that's going to require his blink up. That's a long way off right now. Still level 4 on the Sand King as well. If you don't get those level spikes, it can be a bit tough here.
Well, they have at least found Fly down to the bot side. Zura, I mean, perhaps not really the kill you would have liked as the Razor, but you'll take what you can get. That'll be the first kill over to Azura on that Razor. And again, perhaps you don't want to really commit that rotation just for an Ogre, but, you know, it's still a bit of bonus gold and XP, so why the hell not?
Yeah, you'll take what you can get. Like you're happy enough to just get something to help you snowball here. And that space has left a lot of room for Mikato to just shove in that mid-tier 1 with Siege Creep. So there's some good damage coming through. Mikato does have the Urn up as well, so he can kind of swing around, look for a kill opportunity, get the charge up, and start lining up for bigger shots down the line. That is a bit of that early power spike from the Invoker. Talon, for their part, they have grouped a lot of heroes up top. They drag Fly in. KP has level 6. They're going to try and DB.
Yeah, DB's in big trouble now. So slowly chip away, but Varish is going to be there to zone them out. Still Fly now will reveal himself on the Ogre. You've also got LYM in the back, but he is going to be spotted out by Hyde now. And again, it's just one of the strengths about the Monkey King. It's all this information you give back the way of your team. And so for LYM, who wants to go for a nice little surprise arrow, chances are he's not going to be able to land one, because Hyde, he'll have the vision over. As they pop the Exorcism now, more TPs to come in. Azura, he can really get some work done here on this Razor, but they run with the Bloodlust out, but the arrow, it is going to connect now. They have the homing missile set up. And so information or not from Hyde, it doesn't matter for KP.
Yeah, they managed to punish the overextension. They're still going to gun for more. They've got to be careful here.
Yeah, surprisingly Fly, he stuck around with the creep wave, so Hyde, he's going to get taken out. Makoto, he does show up on the Invoker, but all he can do is Tornado EMP. The Fly, he'll walk his way out, but you found the more valuable target in Hyde anyway. And AG, to be fair, they do commit 4 heroes for that. Still worth their time, though.
It's definitely worth their time. However, I do worry about how much space that gives Gabby. Like, this still leaves the issue of the AM very open for Talon. Gabby has basically a free lane down bot. Wami's just trying to farm the jungle while he can. He does have his level 6, but our Sand King can't really show up to these fights yet. He doesn't have Blink Up, doesn't really have the best mana pool, he doesn't have the sustain. So you're always going to be playing a man down, which is very strange for AG. We talked about them maybe buying space out for Ursa. Instead, it's the Sand King they're kind of needing to bail out here, and even with that solo lane, it's still a lot better for Gabby to handle. They're going to line up for mid now, though.
They will. Boundless Strike will connect. Azura out of mana and should be out of life. And will be. Hyde can easily escape now. LYM, just a bit late to the party, is unable to contribute. And with that, if you're Talon, you might want to just start chipping at that mid-tier 1 and getting it ready for KP to rotate. That is exactly what they probably will do.
Yeah, they're set up on mid. They've got all the supports here along with Mikoto. No Exorcism yet, so KP's just sticking to top. It looks like they might swing to top as well here in Talon's End. Fortunately for AG, they've already backed off from the lane. DB's playing the jungle, working towards a Mask of Madness now. So it looks like they will have to surrender these objectives, and Talon are getting off to that sort of pushing start we expected them to do. They do manage to get that kill, though, down bot.
Well, you talked about the double stun, right? Like, you have the Burrow Strike into the arrow, and Wami's just had no mana to ever get it done, but now, with the Arcane Boots and the Soul Ring up, he'll always have some form of mana to give himself to allow the Burrow Strike setup. So they finally get that pesky AM down, as now Makoto's going to try and rotate on the Invoker, and maybe find a pick off into the Sand King. But I believe he will need some help. Down he can do it on his own, so they are going to bring Gabby back in. Onto the Sand King they go. Cold Snap will be there, but the Burrow Strike was committed in LYM. He's going to pop the Moonlight Shadow. Gabby, oh actually they have the detection. No problem. They'll be able to get the kill. Brish, however, moving in with an arrow out from LYM onto Makoto. They'll get the Invoker down. Hyde trying to fight. Wukong's command out. Brish will drop first, and it looks like they'll find Azura. Great rotations out from Talon to ensure they got the better end of that team fight, and that they will.
Yeah, it works out in the end for Talon. AG just punished for overextending, coming in, trying to help out. And that does give KP the space down mid here as well to get that push going, Mike. So he's got the Exo running. There's only DB to defend. There's not much Years can do to stop that. The Fortifies are still in play, but the pressure is coming through from Talon. So they're trying to open up the map once more for Gabby to still keep playing that farm game, still working towards the Battle Fury. If they can take this mid-tier 1, AG's going to lose a lot of ground, and the map control is not going to be in their favor. They have to really put their bodies for it to protect that objective. They've got the heroes here to watch. So it is a harder process for Talon to get started on that, but you know where Talon's sights are set next. They already took top lane solo with just KP Mid's going to be the next big target, and they should be set up for that defense soon.
Gabby. Again being targeted, but he does blink out at the right time. So LYM just wrapping around, but looks like he will make his way into the mid lane perhaps, where there might be a team fight to break out, as they've got Azura with a tornado. Call down out as well with the cold snap, but Azura, he's okay. Barely. And ooh, maybe he's not. The neutral camp is going to help out, and Fly gets the kill.
My God.
The damn ghost wouldn't leave him alone. Leave Azura alone.
No, he couldn't get the D aggro and couldn't run away in time as well. So a nice kill somehow coming out for Talon. That is going to set up for the mid-tier 1. And that's how the map opens up here for Talon. This is where the farm starts to ramp up. This is where DB might get choked out a bit. As his top jungle is exposed, and the side of Talon can just make their way up there. So they've got more control to play with. They've got a lot of room for Gabby to just keep farming up. Battle Fury not too far off now for AM. And once you can get running with that farm, the Ursa just can't keep up. He doesn't have that same farming capability. He can clear out camps relatively fast, but not as quick around the map as an AM with a blink. So AG have to watch themselves. They've got the blink up on Wami though, Mike, but no epicenter yet. So it's a blink burrow strike available. And that might be enough for them to play with the arrow, and they will go for the smoke play.
Absolutely. It's an important smoke to go for. AG, they're 3k behind. They need something to go their way to try and get this game 3 victory. And they're going to rush for the Roshan pit. Fair enough. Maybe you're not confident for the fight, but you can at least guarantee Roshan with this Ursa. As they do posture around the pit, try to remain protected here in this pit, as Gabby and Fly now going to notice they are around. DB though, he's not healthy. Even with the Morbid mask up, Roshan's being a little bit naughty with the bashes. DB, fine for now, and should be able to get away with it seems, as Bash does come in. Roshan, no, he's going to be alright. Ages to go the way of Army Geniuses, and Talon, they do not read the movement. Back mid lane, Burrow Strike Epicenter's out. Makoto barely avoiding that arrow from LYM, as now they just pounce right back in onto Wami. Azura, he'll try to force the fight anyway, but Hyde, he gets the Wukong's off again. LYM and Barish trying to take him down desperately, but they can't get it done in time. They have to zone themselves out, as Hyde, he just makes so much work happen, and now Barish goes down. They'll find Hyde in the end, but what does it matter? They just clean up the side of Army Geniuses. And that Wukong's, John, it just did not allow them to get close enough to do anything.
Yeah, there was a bit of a disconnect there from AG. When Wami jumped in, they couldn't perfectly align the arrow timing, so there was a bit of hesitation or maybe repositioning coming out from LYM, and that meant they couldn't immediately kill off the Invoker, and that gave enough time for Mikado to just get his spells off, help get some follow-up control, open up the opportunity for Hyde to jump in and clean up. So despite taking the Aegis on AG's side, Talon now have a 4k lead. And while all of that happens, Gabby has a Battle Fury farming top. So your aim is growing really big. Your Invoker hit his Spirit Vessel spike very early on. KP is about to hit the BKB timing as well. And you're not going to be able to stop the aggression from Talon playing this 4 Protect 1. They just have so much team fight on hand. Even if their control isn't that strong or relatively weaker compared to, say, Burrow Strike Arrow, it's enough. If you're kind of split up here on AG, it's very easy for Talon to pick you off 1 by 1.
AG's trying to have a look around, but again, 5k net worth deficit, and they just aren't finding the angles they're looking for to make the initiation over. And you've got Hyde, who's just so annoying in the tree line, just giving the vision. Swami feels safe in the sandstorm, but they do drop an early sentry ward. LYM is getting pinged out right now. Swami, he's in with the Burrow Strike, but the help is there. Makoto, he'll remain safe for now as they try to get him out. LYM, he's on the chase, but the tornado is going to make it, so he does have to back off. Instead, KB now, he'll re-engage for a little bit, but it seems as though Talon will be satisfied with Makoto surviving and just denying AG any form of kill.
Yeah, I think that's big. Talon's just playing around. It's AG who has the Aegis. It's AG that might look to be aggressive, but they're still not finding the angle. And while Talon plays as 4, again, Gabby just plays top. No one is rotating in onto the AM because of the laning pressure Talon's bringing out. So the timings are working towards Talon's favor. They've got the 5k lead now. The BKB timing we were mentioning, Mike, for KP is up. So your DP can just stand forward, use Exo, run heroes down, not caring the world. The control from AG is not going to pin down that Death Prophet. And Talon could just line up for more objectives if they want. Top tier 2 is probably the best bet. They are just keeping the mid constantly shoved in. With a mid tier 1 still standing, AG wants that gone, especially with the Aegis to protect them in that push. But again, they just don't have that opportunity to do so, and they're missing out on a lot of precious time on the Aegis. Only a minute and 40 seconds left on that secondary life for DB.
And time's a ticking, John. I mean, Gabby, he's just freely farming up. Already 9.3k net worth. 3k ahead of DB on that Ursa. And unlike last game around, you don't have Azura to rely on as your carry. Where Azura, he's playing Razor. You know, it does have its own timings, and eventually it does start to slow down as mid lane. They are going to go on Makoto. They found the Invoker with the Boundless. It's not going to buy enough time. Hyde, he's going to try and run, but he can't make it. But now KP, he might just get the job done himself if he can, as he's already found Wami. He will go on to Varish now. He'll pick up a second. Still, I think you'd call that a successful team fight for Army Geniuses. Talon, you've still got Gabby farming, so there's no real problem with it.
I don't think they mind at all. They trade even in the end. And they do lose their Invoker, which is a bigger target than the Sand King of Wami, but you're getting more off the map anyway. You're buying space for Gabby to just avoid all these fights with the Aegis. You're going to hit his own timings relatively soon. He's going for the Manta Ags, man. That Ags on AM is the most annoying thing to play against. I swear to goodness, that illusion's just... Oh, it just makes it so hard for everyone to play this game. So Gabby's off to a really strong spike once that's available, and even just the Manta is going to make him very hard to lock down. I think AG's got to be very cautious about how slow they play this game. They've been trying to force the aggression. They're not jumping the right targets. And the AM is the biggest slippery target that just keeps farming up. And we talked about the potential of having Blink Burrow Strike with Arrow to just pin down the AM. As long as Gabby's not dying, Talon's fine trading 2 for 2 every single time.
Smoke up. We'll use Gabby as bait, but the Aegis, it has now expired, so perfect timing here for Talon to try and force this engagement. Hyde trying to get the vision. Smoke is going to be there, but Hyde saw that. And Smoke is immediately broken here on Wami. He'll have a look around, try to find where this Monkey King is, but he's off the mark. So AG, they could still try, but it does seem like Talon are well and truly ready for this. So instead DB, he might try to force the mid-tier 1 tower instead. Talon, they could fight, or they could go for the top tier 2. I think top tier 2 is probably even more valuable.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
It again opens up the outpost, sets up for next rush. Ooh.
Yeah, nice counter spell there from Gabby. He's just fine. Can they actually catch anyone? The Spirit Vessel already out with the Cold Snap. Onto Azura, and half his HP is just gone. Just forfeited to the Invoker. In fact, I say half. It's 2/3 now. He does have that BKB. He's going to find Gabby, but there's no chance in hell of killing the AM off. Not without a big arrow or a big burrow strike out from our Sand King. So times are continuing to be very, very tough here for AG, as they just don't have any angles into a fight.
They just can't find it. Talon's on top of him with the movement. They're really using the vision game from Hyde very well in this one. And the items are flowing in. Like Gabby, again, Manta style up. Very hard to pin down. Oh, they catch Makoto.
Oh, Makoto, that's a good one. They've got the Invoker. You've got to start off with those kind of kills. Like, sure, you want Gabby, but if you can find the pos 2, it's almost as good. There's Talon. They'll stay grouped up. Getting cut off very soon, though, as Fly. He's going to be jumped on by DB immediately, but the enrage was there. The pop that goes from KB, but he jumps to the low ground, and he's fine. Hiding in and out with Wami with the epicenter back on a KP, but the BKB, it's so fast from KP, and now Gabby, he'll move in, onto DB they go. They want that Ursa first, without an enraged DB struggling to survive as Gabby, he'll get the job done. Azura now, he'll try to run with his own BKB charge out, but it doesn't look to be enough as Gabby, he will not leave this man alone, we'll find him, and there's your mana void out from the AM. Gets the job done. Did you see the reaction speed of KP, John?
Oh yeah, like right on time. I think that was thanks to Hyde. He was scouting out that Roche pit with his position on the Monkey King. He found the channel from Wami to enable KP to get the perfect use of that BKB, and they turned things around. AG, Got that good pick off, but it's just not enough. I don't think Mikado is a problem in these team fights. I mean, he is annoying with all his spells, with the Tornado, the Cold Snap, the Ice Wall coming through. But committing so much for one kill, kind of getting kited around by supports in that ward spot, was just not the follow-through that AG needed. They needed to be able to take a confident position with vision. They just don't have the info on the map to get the right angles in. And it's just down to hide, it's just down to these wards. Talon has planted on the cliffs. AG has invested a lot in getting V-wards, but Talon just keeps rewarding anyway. They just keep going back in, ensuring they've got the spots, ensuring they fight around the vision. And AG just lack the follow-through because of that. I think they're very reliant on having superior vision or having Talon lack vision for them to get the angles because they're so reliant on Burst Strike Arrow. And if you see the Sand King coming in, then it's just so easy to use your BKB, run off, and just reset yourself.
They're heading over towards Gabby, but again, I just don't think you have the lockdown right now for this anti-mage. He's out of there anyway. Knows they're around. They'll have a quick scan out, but they will not find the AM as Wami. He'll have to find another target. Mikoto, again, is a pretty nice one to find, and he should be able to get the Burrow Strike off into the arrow setup, but no!
Oh.
It's missed time. Epicenter still going to come through, but the Orchid is there. Mikoto, he's been jumped by DB, however. The Ursa's got him, but how does DB get out of this? He's out of enrage already. Slowed down with the Bullwhip. Epicenter is out onto KP, however, and they've got the Death Prophet. They'll still try to fight. Mataboy out, Gaffy! He just shreds them. So I am. They'll try to get out, but not away from Gabby as the blink is there. Azura, the last target left on the Razor, and eventually will be taken care of by Gabby, who could just infinitely blink towards this Razor. TP away, and they shouldn't have the damage and won't. So you at least get one out, but still not really great news for AG as they lost 4 heroes for 2.
Oh my god. Dude, the axe is up for Gabby now as well. So, hello, Blink Illusions. That will just constantly... Why does it have 3 charges? I don't understand that. Like, 3 charges of Illusions sent to the backline, burning mana down. If Wami just gets his mana pool burned down, you know, the Illusions get sent to him. He's not going to be able to blink in. He's not going to be able to set up for arrow. There's not going to be enough left over, maybe even for the Burst Strike Epicenter combination. So this is a great pickup by Gabby. AG, they had this early spike they had to run with, but they lost their bot lane. I think Wami's lane was just so important to this entire game. And this slower start for the Sand King just kind of set them back a big amount, and now Roche number 2 is being taken by Talon. Yep. You've got the Ursa and AG, you want to take this objective, but you don't have the angles. Look at the vision from Talon. They still hold that ward cliff, they still have high jumping around, they have 3 wards cutting across that riverside. There's no angles for AG at all.
Now you got a Shards up on KP, you've got an Aegis up on Gabby. He may work towards the Eye of Skadi before getting aggressive again, but quite frankly, John, nobody's really contested Gabby this game. He is 8-1-4. He died 1 time to the Burrow Strike Arrow combo in the laning phase, and that's about it. Ever since then, he has not dropped a death, and, well, quite frankly, hasn't even been close to dying on this anti-mage, so AG, they've got to find a way to get it done. It just seems so much more difficult with an Aegis there now. If it wasn't hard enough already. See what Talon can get out of this. I mean, T2 mid, T2 bot, they're both still standing. It just seems like such easy pickings as long as Gabby's not the first to get caught out. And even then, again, he has that secondary life. I just don't see how you can kill him a second time. Not in one team fight.
Yeah, it's just so difficult. See that illusion just doing work, send it out, get down. You still have 2 charges for some reason, although...
They've got KP, that's a nice way to start, onto the Death Prophet, and he's down already, in fact Fly now, also getting caught out, and that's a great way to start the fight, but can they find more? They're going to try onto Mikoto as DB's already made the jump in, Dust is there, Balance Strike out, hide, he'll pop the Wukong's command, he'll try to hold them back, and he will do so successfully, but it is going to cost him his own life. Gabby does not end up reinitiating. So Army Genius is a successful team fight for themselves. We'll see what they can get out of this. Gabby. Let's jump in. Walk right back out.
just playing tag a bit. Great pickoffs coming through from AG. That stops the tier 2 mid push. I think you've got to be a bit cautious with overextending yourself there on Talon's end. You don't want to split up too hard. That's how AG does find their angles, right? Like if you're isolated, it's very easy to get the full combination of burst strike arrow. Where Talon finds the most success is when they're actually pretty clumped up, because that control will land onto one, but that exposes the entirety of AG towards Talon's own counter fight, and that's how they line up their own shots coming back in. Never realized this as well, Mike, but we're at the point where somehow Fly's 15 and Mikado's 14 on the Invoker. You rarely see that, don't you? Ogre, Magi, levels ahead. Even Hyde is levels ahead, so Mikado's really been targeted down, but doesn't matter too much. They will smoke. Look for the play as KP found Varish at least.
Yeah, but he's going to TP out and they've got no way to cancel. That's quick thinking there from Varish to get himself out. Gabby, he's pretty close to the Eye of Skadi, but again, it doesn't really feel like he needs it. Still with the Aegis up for 2 minutes, you may as well just get aggressive here as Talon. AG, they're going to have to try and respond to this mid-tier 2 tower push. They've got Epicenter back up in 3. It's really hard though, because there's so many ways of scouting them out with these illusions, and there you go. Both out now onto Azura. Forced to run away before all his mana's gone. And the tier 2 tower, it just drops. No chance of trying to defend.
Oh, that's such a sneaky play as well. They just got the Cloak of Flames drop. Wami had to go in to pick it up and then force Staff blink out just to take the neutral. Like, they're under such high pressure that you can't afford to make small mistakes like that. So, at the least, Wami has the Cloak of Flames. They do Moonlight up. They're going to look for the angle onto the mid. Mikado sticking out again. Could be a nice target to start this fight once more. Azura does reveal that.
Hide around as they get the Balance Strike off onto OYM. Silenced up. We're trying to force Starved out, but there is no chance that he does make it out. As Talon, they're hungry for more. They want another target, but who can they find? Varish, he does get spotted. Can they cancel? Yeah, they can. Mana Void. Gabby, he does end up canceling the TP of the Gyrocopter and set up for another. As Hyde is still looking around for another and has found one in Wami. There's your balance out, and Wami should have no way out. Gabby will take care of it. Another kill for the anti-mage.
The cost of magic.
There's no escaping from this draft. There really isn't. There's just too many ways of scouting them out.
Yeah, they've got a lot of vision. They've got a lot of mobility with the AM, the Monkey King on hand. And they can just be on top of you in a flash. DB, and just blink out at the least, but Azura might not be so safe here.
He may not. Hyde has the balance again, but I believe just barely missed out on the vision he needed. What do you do as AG though, John? It feels like every team fight that goes by just goes back the way of Talon. They're holding a 13k net worth lead. And I suppose AG might have a bit of an opening once that Aegis does expire, which is happening right now. But even then, can you win a team fight here as AG?
You can, but you have to play pick-off games first. So, like we saw in that tier 2 push earlier on, if they manage to get a couple of solo pick-offs, then force a bigger engage, Talon will back off. I think that's what they need to do. Just focus on one hero at a time, clean them up, rinse and repeat, and just slow down the pace of Talon trying to build up on that Ursa.
We'll jump in. They've got a great target to start as KP again being focused down, but this time he has a BKB up. Talon, they already got that final outer tower. You're around that point now where you just wait out the next Roshan and then go for the high ground play. Because we're going to find out in about 2 minutes when that Roshan will come up. But in the meantime for Gabby, he's just going to go ahead and farm a butterfly. They've got no way to get through it. So DB, who's already struggling to farm, is going to start working towards that MKB. But chances are he will not have it in time to deal with Gabby's butterfly.
Radiant are
And
scattered.
then the farm gap is just way too big. It just comes down to the fact that DB can't farm as much as an AM. He doesn't have a Battle Fury of his own. He doesn't jump through camps as fast. Hyde gets a good jump around. Did you see the Monkey King jumping? There was no sentry down, so he doesn't see them through the moonlight, but they're not able to find a big target as well on AG's side with moonlight out. So still not finding the angles. It is still about the pick-off game. They need to be able to leverage that Burrow Strike arrow. It's been tough, though. With the BKBs coming out, the distance at which LYM's trying to find these arrows are just so far as well. And that sometimes the chain stun just doesn't come true, and if they can't get the combo off, it feels like AG misses out on their only angle in taking these fights.
being watched right now by Makoto. Bot lane, they're just going to push high ground instead. They know exactly where they are. Force the rotations back in from Army Geniuses. Smart plays here from Gabby, and that'll leave Azura on his own. He'll be forced to BKB up thanks to Makoto, and they might still be able to cut him off. They're making their way over. Poor old Azura, he's just trying to go back to the base, but it's not going to work out for him as Gabby's there. Arrow, it'll fly in, but Gabby just sidesteps and just ignores it. It's just a great play as they move in for more now. KP is onto DB. In fact, here comes Gabby onto the Mirana. Mana Void won't be quite enough. LYM, he barely makes it back to the fountain. But how do you defend this tier 3 tower? The answer is you can't, John. The answer is you can't.
No, you can't. And these AM illusions just constantly blinking in, revealing your position, makes it hard for AG to just find the angle into the back. They still have the epicenter burrow strike. They will lose their top lane. And for Talon, it's just a rinse and repeat. Roshan will find respawn shortly. If it's a fast one, that could be pretty darn big for Talon, but it's a longer respawn. So they're going to have to be patient for the Aegis. That buys some time for AG. I don't really know if the Rosh is necessary for Talon on the high ground, though. Like, if they just find one pick off, as we saw with Azura, it's just really easy for them to run down and still find an objective anyway.
Gabby, right on to that Ursa. Mana gone. KP, he's going to be there for support. The 4 stuff is out. LYM, oh, DB, he's forced to BKB up. He gets tricked. It's just illusions. I say just illusions, though. Those illusions hit hard.
Oh, yes. And you really can't tell if it's the AM blinking in onto you or if it's a blink fragment coming up. Like, that's the one thing. It's so easy to bait out BKBs like that because there's no real prompt, no real visual or audio prompt that tells you, all right, this is a fake. It's just very sneaky. And you have 3 charges of that. Like, the uptime is like 3 charges, 7 seconds each. That's 21 seconds of illusions, 25-second restore for 1. Like, that's kind of insane uptime if you just spam it right. So Gabby's always going to have that tool on hand. AG holding the high ground. They're not dipping outside their base here, Mike. They're just playing the slow game, trying their best to get what farm they can. Azura is trying to save up for the refresh, which would be big on the Razor. Double static link, double Eye of the Storm can make a pretty big impact in team fights. But he just has to be able to stand and fight for that duration, and AG will go for a smoke play again.
Right, look at the positioning from this Monkey King, John. Every single time. He's ready, but the Moonlight Shadow will make it so they can sneak by. KP, he'll break the smoke, but again, the Invis not going to allow him to know exactly where they are. So AG, they'll keep wrapping towards the high ground, but Talon, they seem to know. They'll make their move in, but they find nothing yet. They're still chasing down AG, and now they'll see them. Balor strike out. Barish, he'll get caught first. Burrow strike is there. Maybe Gabby's in trouble, but no. With the butterfly, he is perfectly fine. They can't catch him out. They don't know which one the real one is. And now KP, he'll get right to work as AG are completely split up and by themselves. Azura, he'll try to TP and does make it out in time, but you've left DB alone, and he's going to die through the BKB.
Shall not prevail.
It's such a hard game with this Aghanim Scepter on Gabby. In fact, they even found LYM. And they're onto the Roshan.
Yep, you don't have the angle to fight this one out in AG anymore. They don't have the numbers. They do have the Burst Strike play, but Wami's too far out. Gabby, he's actually flying out an Ag's Blessing of his own. He's going to free up that slot. They do give the Ags over to Mikoto. And that should allow them to maybe now just play with Cataclysm. Like, they don't have the best hold for it, but just the threat coming through from the Roker is going to be big. And AG have to watch himself. It's only 2 racks left. It's not going to take long for Talon to get on top of that.
Absolutely not. KP moves in along with Gabby again, just so confident to be able to take these T3s. Gabby will get rid of 1. AG, this could be the final defense, but they're waiting out the respawns. They do not want to commit buyback right now on DB. They'd rather hold, just in case he drops. But Gabby, he's not done. With the Alacrity up, he just takes the tier 3s that much faster. DB now will come up. There's your Manta, but it's not a dodge. Wami's in. Do you have the damage output? Not quite, Gabby. He's already taken down Wami. Where does he go? He moves backwards. It's DB, he's coming now. Onto hide, but the Monkey King is going to be fine within that Wukong's command. KB, he'll keep going to work, and DB, BKB or not, he is just melting to the damage of Gabby. Arrow at least does connect this time around, but they don't have the damage out. Gabby is still fine to blink away as Fly, he'll hold them back on that Ogre. Gabby again with the Mana Void in onto 3 heroes. He'll take down LYM. He's healthy once again. Back in onto DB. He's just man fighting into the T4 towers. Back in on Azura now. This Razor cannot survive the damage output. And now a Tornado out with the Cataclysm. Varish just melts. DB's gone. It's a dieback on the Ursa. And they call it. They have seen enough. And Talon, they have taken their first 2-1 victory in Division 2 of the SCA DPC against Army Geniuses.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job of just enabling Gabby to have this great AM game. They kept forcing fights out. They kept going for even trades, which looked bad on paper because they were trading their Invoker Wave for just the Sand King for a while. Mikado had a very slow start there, but it was all worth it because Gabby was left alone for like a good 20 to 25 minutes. The AM was just left to free farm, and AG just couldn't find the angles. Talon made really good use of their wards, really good use of their Monkey King pick, just getting the scouting out, and AG just couldn't find the angle. So props to Talon for kind of executing the draft to near perfection there, giving Gabby a really big win condition he could just build up on and giving him the space he needed. But I think AG did bring out a really good fight. They keep going back to this pos 5 gyro, which maybe in game 1 didn't really work out too well. Game 2 worked out a lot better when Wami did have a team fighting hero. And I think it just shows you again how tight Div 2 of Southeast Asia is in this tour. Like you expect, I think a lot of people maybe before DPC would have expected Talon to take these sorts of games off, but AG is surprising us. And even with that loss, I think that still puts them slightly above Talon in terms of score overall. So there's still a lot of climbing for Talon to do. AG going to have to lick their wounds and look for a win elsewhere.
No, 100%. Obviously a bit of a tough time for AG here, but for Talon, must be very, very happy to pick up that first win and get some momentum going for themselves going into their next matchups. And speaking of next matchups, Jonathan, we are going to have some more coming up on BTS Dota 1, as we do have Fnatic against Boom Esports coming up right after this. And of course, Motivate Trust versus SMG to end off the night. Some pretty hype SCA Dota on this channel will be up hopefully very, very soon, as we're already late for Division 1, John. So you and I are going to head off. Unfortunately, there is no time for an interview today, as we do have to start the Division 1 games. But it is MLP Dota and johnxfire. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you all again next time for some more great SCA Dota. See you then.